You're running for mayor.
Yeah.
Um, and the people want to know who you are. And they have an idea of who you are. But like introduce yourself so that way the people could know you not just as a mayor, but know you in a personal level of who is the Jack Hilligoss.
Okay. Well, I am first of all, I've lived in Lake Wales for almost 30 years. I actually was born in the Midwest, but I moved down here 3 decades ago to go to school at Warner Southern College. It's Warner University now, and graduated from there. Short trip down to Broward for a few years, and then came back here in 1997 and became the pastor of High Point Church, which when I moved here was located on Burns Avenue, right at the top of historic Spook Hill. And about 3 years ago, we relocated out to the north side of town on Scenic Highway, close to the old Chalet Suzanne. And husband, been married for 38 years, three kids, 2 sons and a daughter. And all of them are grown now. So that's who I am. I people would not believe it, given that I'm a pastor and a mayor, and that I'm kind of a quiet guy, and would love to stay to myself. But here I am in the middle of public life because I feel like I've been called to those things. So I'm not always comfortable with it, but I know it's what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's pretty awesome. I think the qualifications of a bishop, of a pastor, really plays a really important role as qualifications for a leadership in a town or a leadership in any position. Because, was it when the righteous rule, the people rejoice? And when the wicked rule, it's, the people mourn. So I think it's a really important thing to have, because one, the qualifications of a bishop, it's to set the example for the whole church, to look at the church family and the pastor and say, hey, that's the way things should go. And then it sets the whole example. So having that same leadership skills does play in every role. As a pastor, everything points to you. As a father of a home, everything falls on you. Well, as a mayor, everyone blames everything on you, not knowing what's going on. Help us understand, what is the role of a mayor?
Okay. Well, it's different in every city. It depends on what city you're in. So in the city of Lake Wales, we have what's called a weak mayor form of government. And what that means is that as the mayor of Lake Wales, I don't have any policy-making power. In fact, my vote only counts as the same as all the other 4-seated commissioners in our city. So I can't unilaterally make I don't have any executive authority. So the mayor's position is really kind of ceremonial. In fact, Lake Wales, up until probably about a decade ago, once the commissioners were elected, they just chose among themselves who would serve as the mayor. And it was only about a decade ago that we decided to make it an elected seat. It was seat 1 at large. And so if you look in the city charter, my role is defined as I chair all of the meetings of the commission. I have to make sure they're run according to the proper rules and procedures. I sign all of the contracts for the city once something has been approved. And I represent the city ceremonially. So if there's a ribbon cutting, if there's some place where the city needs to be represented, most of the time I'm asked to do that. So those are predominantly the things that I do, try and bring some sort of order to the meetings, and I sign all the legal documents. But when it comes to actually the decisions that affect the day-to-day lives of our citizens, I don't have any more authority than any of the other commissioners do.
Okay. Now, you're running for mayor again. And there's a question I want to ask everyone. Why do you want to run for mayor? Why do you want to be mayor again?
Well, I think because Lake Wales is at a very critical time. The world has discovered this sleepy little town, and the impact of decisions and procedure and professionalism and integrity have exponentially larger impact than it used to be. Used to be you had more time. Things were pretty status quo in our little town for a long time, and now that's not true. And so lack of professionalism, lack of precision, lack of competence on that city commission can have generationally negative impacts. And the reverse is true. If it's handled well, if there are good, smooth relationships between the staff and the commission, between this public servants and the commission, it makes our city better and it makes us more attractive for the kind of opportunities that we need. And if we get out of whack and we get people up there that don't know how to behave themselves and turn that commission chamber into a circus, we will fall way behind and suffer real bad consequences for that.
No, definitely, for sure. And as we're kind of seeing politically, you can't really accomplish everything just with one term.
No,
it's a prolonged process.
Sure.
And you're right. People are noticing Lake Wells.
It's crazy.
Because it's one of the last affordable places close to Orlando, close to Disney. And the reason why I say close to that area is that's where a lot of higher paid jobs are. And as a real estate agent, I get people looking to go to, Ocala or Lake Wells when they're trying to find something affordable. They're willing to drive an hour to an hour and a half to work.
Well, and it's funny you say Ocala, because that's kind of what we're competing with, is the cities up and down that 27 corridor. And so we have to be attractive in comparison to them. And so I would just say there are a lot of things we can't talk about when it comes to businesses that are investigating, but we're right on the doorstep of some really exciting new horizons for Lake Wales, things that we never thought about. But you cannot understand how important it is when a major manufacturer or business is looking at a city. They look at the city commission and they look at who's sitting in the mayor's seat. And if they don't see competence, if they don't feel like they can deal with that person, that's a problem. So I believe that there were a lot of reasons that I ran initially, but the reason I'm staying now is because we've done such good work and we've set the table well, and people are looking at us. And I want to make sure that there's a steady sense of confidence and competence for people who are thinking about making this town home.
Yeah, that's really important, especially to your goal. Like, what is your goal as for this term?
Yeah.
Is pretty much to set that in stone, right?
Yeah. So we've done a lot of good work. I can talk about that in the last 3 years that set the table well. But right now, I think the two things in the next 3 years that are the most important to me are quality of life and economic development. And when I say quality of life, I mean specifically, we just invested in a Parks and Rec master plan for the city of Lake Wales. It's a great master plan that it has a recommendation of about a $28 million investment over the next several years into the parks, the trails. It's gorgeous stuff like, an amphitheater, a splash pad, new fields, pickleball courts. And I think that would certainly be great for our citizens. Second thing is economic development. We've already started to really polish the crown jewel of the Ridge, and we've made major investments into that. It's becoming one of the most attractive downtown areas in all of Polk County. But now we've got to activate it. And we've had people who are interested come and with our city manager tour the downtown, and they're looking around going, yeah, this might be a place we would want to invest. So how do we activate our downtown? And also, how do we bring in other higher paying businesses?
Yeah. So now, what would you say for your first term that what have you done, or what have you been able to implement that was a big push?
It was planning. I tell people growth is not an option. It's a reality right now.
Yeah.
It's coming for three reasons. It's happening here. One is the citrus industry has dried up on us, and it's left a lot of high and dry and cheap land, and people are looking for that. The other two have to do with our state government that has led us well. Florida is a very attractive location, and all the way back to 2020 when the national government didn't lead us well. So this has become a real attractive spot for people. So having said that, growth is a reality. And when I hear, and it's caught a lot of people by surprise. And so when I hear a candidate for any office say, my top priority is managing growth or responsible growth. Well, that's easy to say, but usually it's code for I'll stop the growth.
Yeah.
That's not possible, and it's not ethical. The only way you deal with growth is you plan well, and you try and help your citizens gain the most benefits, because there will be exciting benefits, while you minimize the impact. So I think that in the last 3 years here in Lake Wales, we've done an exceptional job of planning to position our city to gain the best that we can from growth while minimizing the negatives. So I won't go into great detail unless you want to, but the Lake Wales Connected Plan, we established a 180 service area, multimodal fees, the Lake Wales Envision Plan, the Parks and Rec Master Plan, a watershed plan. All of these things, I think, have made it so that we're garnering all of the benefits to beautify this city, and we're doing our best to minimize some of the impacts.
Yeah, that's important, because even if no one really moves here, families are still growing.
Yeah.
And you don't want your kids to have to move to another town because there's no houses here.
Right.
And, and I hear a lot of people, say that, like, hey, now my kids have to move far away. And then they get old, and then they either move close to their kids because they can't afford. Right. There's nothing here. There's a shortage. Prices would go up. And then, they're moving out. And we need to have growth. We have to manage it right, so that way, everyone succeeds.
You've hit on something that, on personal level, that's been a frustration that's been shared with me. I pastor a church. So all of the decisions that I make run through that lens of what do the people that I pastor say to me, and what are they struggling with, because they're very representative of what lives in Lake Wales. And one of the things, the frustrations, is our kids don't stay here unless they're part of of a legacy family in Lake Wales that has a well-established business of some sort. Lake Wales is a move-away city. And you're right. It would be wonderful if we would make this a place that kids not only wanted to stay, but they enjoy staying.
Yeah, because they're going to Lakeland, Tampa, Orlando, and it's the truth. I see people's like, yeah, my kids, they're going out to other places. They love to hear, they want to stay, but there's nothing for them.
Yeah.
Your authority within the town, versus what you have control over, or what the commission has control over, and what the commission doesn't have control over. Also explain, the challenges you've had with the city and the county, like dealing with the growth and dealing with everything in town.
Sure. Okay. So, yeah, that's a great question. And I think that oftentimes some of the frustration that our folks feel is that they don't understand that. So the city of Lake Wales has to deal with 4 different governing agencies. You've got the city government, you've got the county government, you got the state government, and you got federal government. And all of them have some realm of authority within this area. The City Commission of Lake Wales really only has direct authority over everything that's within the established city limits, which is not as large as people think. Just because you have a Lake Wales address doesn't mean you're in the city of Lake Wales. So the service area where you have Lake Wales addresses has a population of about 30,000 people, but within Lake Wales proper is about 16,000. And then most of the roads that that run through Lake Wales are not city roads. For instance, Highway 27, Highway 60, Buckmore Road. All of those are either state highways or county roads. And so the county and the state have to make all of the improvements and all of the upgrades on those. We only can do city roads, Bryn Mawr, Tillman, Park, streets that within our city. And actually, in the last few years, for the first time in quite a number of years, because our property values have risen and because of new development, we've been able to fully fund resurfacing of projects, and we resurfaced 23 miles of city roads, and we're going to finish most of those up in the next couple of years. So almost every city road will be repaved and resurfaced. But then we have state highways. And then another thing people don't understand is we have federal government that is involved here. So I'll give you a big example of one of the things we'll see. The Grove Manor area, the Grove Manor housing area of Lake Wales, which is a pretty large part of the city, is going to go through a major renovation and rebuild, but that's all being handled by HUD, which is a federal agency. Now we've helped our local HUD agency qualify for grants by kicking in a little city money to make them more attractive federally, and we were happy to do that. But all of that work is being done by the federal government, overseen by the federal government. And so, but it's right in the heart of our town. So people will automatically assume, in fact, I've already fielded a few emails asking about that project. And it's not something that the city of Lake Wales has control over. So there's a lot of complexity there.
I think a lot of the complaints that people have are more stuff that's county.
Yeah.
County.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I had a gentleman reach out to me this last week. He's very upset because he has trouble making a left turn out of his development, which is on Buckmore Road. It's been there a long time. And he was upset because there's a lot of new development coming in along Buckmore, but why are there no turning lanes? Why are there no lights? And while I sympathize with him, what I had to say to him is, when the city of Lake Wales approves a development, we send it up to the county and the state for concurrency studies. The county and the state has to study the level of services on county roads and determine what work has to be done to accommodate those. If they feel like we don't meet concurrency, they won't even let us build that subdivision. But if they do, it's up to them to demand the improvements on the road that they want from the developer. Turn lanes, decel lanes, lights, all of that happens at a different level.
And you're talking about that the new Robin.
Yeah, Robbins Run. There's Leighton Landing. There's 2 or 3 bigger, not huge, but pretty good sized developments. And it has certainly increased the traffic on that road, but that's a county road. So any work that's done on that road that's determined at a county level.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's good. I think that's really important for people to know what, where the fault falls, and because if it's something that the city could do, they're going to really try to implement it. But when it goes to the county, they don't really hear small local folks. They it's kind of hard to reach to them at such a smaller level. Sadly, I would say.
I think our county commissioners try and listen, but even to some degree, what they're going to say is there are some things they probably answer to higher. But it is true that the further you are away from the impact, the less attention you pay to it. So, yeah, sometimes the best interest of people living on Buckmore Road in Lake Wales are not served by the county commission.
Yeah, and that's really, really good to know. Really important to know. Now, here's a question from the public, from the Facebook group. It says more and more people are not just getting into accidents, but actually turning into fatalities on our roads. What is our plan to reduce this tragedy? And I think that, a lot of that is, like you mentioned, is on county roads, because it's Lake Wales, but it's out towards 60, which I believe. But within the city, I don't think we have too many within the cities.
I don't think so. I say that without having looked at any statistics. But again, the only roads we have direct control over are city roads. And most of those are, 35 mile per hour speed limit. Even Burns Avenue is not a city road, which is one of the roads that there's a lot of speeding on and a lot of problems on. All I can say about that is what we can do and what we've tried to do is the Lake Wales Connected Plan and the Lake Wales Envision Plan both call for a narrowing of a lot of our streets, which automatically slows people down, a lot of traffic calming, well posted and reasonable speed limits. Within our school zones, we are right now looking at enacting, and this is mildly controversial, but cameras. Red light cameras, so that you make sure that people are following those speed limits, especially where our kids are. And if they aren't, that they pay a price for that. So that's what we can do on a city level. And I think that's what we've been trying to do. Now, when you talk about the 2760, those are state highways. Now, as an aside, what I would say to folks is that in 2024, the city of Lake Wales only approved 500 building permits. And people don't believe me. Now that's going to go up a lot this year because you see all the land clearing that's going on. But a lot of the impact that you're seeing traffic-wise on our highways around here is not from what's happening in Lake Wales. It's from what's already happened in Winter Haven, Haines City, Davenport, and you are seeing the impacts on our local infrastructure from those cities that are growing very rapidly, which is another reason why you should probably want your city to be more aggressive about annexation and taking control of the growth, because those other cities are doing it, and we're already feeling the impact of it, and we're getting none of the financial benefit from it.
No, for sure. Now, this is probably another question here that is pushed towards the county and state, but is a question that folks from the city thinks, you are the one who have the control over this, which is, what is your plan to provide water to the citizens of Lake Wells?
Okay, well, actually, no, that is something we have some control over. So in Polk County, every municipality has a pumping permit, a daily pumping permit that's assigned to them by Southwest Water Management or SwiftMud, based on their population. And so Lake Wales has a 3.3 million gallon a day pumping permit. And what we can do is try and make sure that we handle that water well. We have a great utilities department. It's run extremely well. Some of the things that we've done here, and a few years ago, we were trying to find another alternative source of water. I don't know if most people have heard about this Polk County Regional Water Cooperative, where they're putting out the big wells to try and get down into the lower Floridian aquifer, because they know we're going to have a drinking water problem in the next decade.
Yeah.
Well, we thought we could find something on our own, because the prices for that are going to be really hefty to local citizens, and that didn't work. So we're going to have to do it at some point. But here's what we have done. We became the first city in Polk County to qualify for the 5-star water management certification. We're the only one. We were the first ones. I think we're still the only one. What that means is we're requiring every developer to put in water conserving devices, your faucets, everything has to be water conserving. We also are requiring all new developers to put in dry lines for irrigation, which means that potable water will not be used. Only recycled water can be used to irrigate lawns. And all of that's already been done. And I know the last report we received, we're only pumping at about 2.1 million gallons per day. So we're well under our capacity. Every time that we take a piece of land and annex it, we're talking to the landowners. A lot of these grove owners have their own wells, and we're looking at land use transfers to increase the amount of water we can pump. We speak to other municipalities who are around us about taking over maybe the operation of their water supplies. So that increases our capacity, and those things are all in the works. They've not taken place, but we're doing that. But where we stand right now, actually, Lake Wales is positioned better than I think any other municipality in the county. We're way under our capacity. Even if we were to build every house that's in the pipeline, which you and I probably won't happen, we're not projected to reach capacity till 2032. And then we can buy into the Polk Regional Water Cooperative. It's just at that point, prices will go way up. And I will tell you that there are municipalities in our county that have already exceeded their pumping, and they've had to put a moratorium on all their building because they have no solutions to that problem.
Yeah, I know I've seen utilities at other counties where their electric water bill is just so high.
Yeah.
And I am happy that Lake Wells is
So
fairly low compared to other people.
So far, it's been pretty well.
And that's good. And I also noticed on the Lake Wells, the City of Lake Wells website, there is rebates for homeowners, and I'm not sure for renters, but for homeowners to get up to $1,000 for irrigation and for interior.
And I think that was all part of one of the significant things we did last year was that 5-star water certification program. And again, like I said, we were the first city in the county to do that.
Yeah, that's really good. And what's nice is all the new developments. They are really energy efficient. Really, they conserve a lot, and trust me, it makes a big difference when you get a big house. Instead of paying $500 a month on electricity, you're paying $150, $200 maybe. So and then we talked a little bit about this, but this is a question every family was really excited for, is the splash pad. We want a splash pad. Tell us a little bit about where the splash pad is going to be, and how soon are we going to get that?
Okay, I don't know that I can answer that. I can't answer it and try and be real honest about it. We're going to have one. I think I said earlier, one of the things I'm really excited about is that we just finished the Parks and Rec master plan. And again, this is one of the things that I appreciate about our city administration, and I think we've done well. We don't just say, hey, we need a splash pad and let's slap it up here, or let's, every time some place opens up, let's put a splash pad there. Well, the problem with that is it's really good on the front end, then long term it becomes detrimental because it wasn't well planned. So we really try and think through how we're going to do this. So Parks and Rec's master plan was finished and adopted by our commission this year. And it calls for a $28 million investment in all of our parks, in city parks, and quality of life recreational issues. And the splash pad is one element of that plan. And where it sits right now, or where it's proposed right now, would be at Crystal Lake Park, right next to the current playground, right off of the Park Avenue Connector Trail. And again, that's part of planning. One of the things we have seen here is that Lake Wales is a beautiful location in our city. Wonderful events are held down there, Pioneers Days, the Arts Festival, the Orange Blossom Review, that bring thousands of visitors into our city. But Lake Wales feels disconnected from our downtown. So we've been working intentionally to connect that to downtown. And the Park Avenue Connector Trail, which we just cut the ribbons on year before last, was one step in that direction. And the splash pad will be right off of that Park Avenue Connector Trail as you're walking towards the downtown area.
Yeah, that's exciting. And it grow.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about it. I hear people promise that they'll get us one, and I hear people asking for one, and I understand it's going to be a great thing for our city, but it's in the works.
Yeah, and it's good that where you have it set, because it will connect the events to bring business downtown, and then it'll have that bridge for everyone.
I want to make sure that I do say this. We stick pretty close to those plans, but everyone knows that, you start off, it may not be exactly like that, but that's the plan. And usually what I've seen here is that once we do that, we stick pretty close to them. Yeah.
And that's good, because I've seen it on, I think in the first Lake Wales Envision plan, it was like totally different location where they had the splash pad. And I was like, that doesn't make sense at all. But having it closer to in the middle doesn't make more sense. Now, here's another question from a citizen in Lake Wales is, Florida Natural has been a huge employer for many residents in Lake Wales. How vital is it to keep agriculture going, and how would you promote it so that people can continue to earn a livable wage?
Yeah, Florida's Natural has been the anchor of the city for a long time, because citrus has been the anchor of the city for a long time. In fact, I just had a conversation with a grove owner a couple of weeks ago that was sharing with me that at one point, and maybe just very recently, it represented $30 million annually to the local economy of Lake Wales, and that is going away. Florida's Natural a few years ago was squeezing 16 million boxes of juice annually, and now it's down to about 2 million boxes of juice annually. So it's a real concern, and so that's why it is so vital that our city become attracted to other things. We have to diversify. I hate to say these things, but they're just reality. Citrus is not going to come back to where it was. So we've got to find other sources of high level, high income employment. This last year, we landed Advanced Drainage Systems, which is building one of their. It looks like it's going to be their national headquarters outside of Columbus, their second hub right here in the city of Lake Wales, and they're the largest manufacturer of underground plastic water pipes. When that gets built, they're building on 100 acres down on Hunt Brothers Road. And when it gets built out, they're going to have about 300 jobs that pay well over the current median income of the area of Lake Wales. So that's one. And I will tell you that they went through a lot with some citizens who really resisted them coming and hung in there. So what I would implore people to do is think about that. How do we bring in other, diversify that, our income? Because the citrus industry is not going to be the backbone that it was.
No, for sure. I think the news came up with the fear from the train wreck, and then the other, it was the timing was.
I think that
But it's
that's somewhere those were real. Those were
yeah.
genuine concerns, and people just didn't have information. And then we had another faction in the city that just blatantly lied about it, and I
Oh
I
wow.
don't understand that. They actually tried to shut it down, and it that would have been terribly detrimental to our city.
Wow. Yeah, no, for sure. Because I think I saw online they're offering starting people off around $60,000 around that price point.
Yeah, the hourly wage for someone who starts as a line worker there sounds to me like it would be like in the upper 20s per hour, which is well beyond what the normal starting rate
Yeah.
is. And that's for a line worker. I mean, you just can walk in there and get hired and start working at that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So, what is your vision for economic development and bringing more jobs to our city?
Mm. Well, I think that again, indirectly, what we can do as a commission, because we're not in business, we're in government.
Yeah.
But indirectly, what you can do is create the friendliest environment that you can. And so, one of the things that we did this last year is we partnered with Retail Strategies, which is a company that basically they're headhunters for businesses that are looking to relocate or looking where can we go start our next franchise, open our next location. So in this last year, you've seen out on 27, we've opened a Freddy's and a Slim Chickens and a Panera Bread, and we've got a Chipotle on the way, we've got a Starbucks on the way, and a new Dunkin', and I've heard rumors of a Chick-fil-A. That's all a direct result of our work with Retail Strategies, and we're asking them to look for those same kind of boutique kind of shops that would come to downtown Lake Wales. So we're shopping Lake Wales that way, and the city's making that investment. The other thing that we did is we talked with our Economic Development Council, and we just this last year adopted a new set of incentive packages where we will work with if you got a large company and you're going to make several $1 million of capital investment in our city and you're going to provide a certain number of high-paying jobs, then we will mitigate impact fees for you. We will do everything we can to streamline getting you in here and being as friendly as we can with on the government to bring you in here. So that's another thing that we've done to try and be attractive to these folks to come to our area.
It's good. Any plans for a Costco coming?
I haven't heard Costco.
I mean, that would be nice right there. Now here's a question. We've talked about this a little bit earlier. A lot of businesses downtown, their mindset is it's very hard to get a business set with so many regulations and time limits on permits. And what is a good solution for businesses down there, and what can they do to kind of speed up the process so that way they could, if they sign the lease, they fix whatever they have to open up on a short time.
Yeah, I will tell you that I've heard a little bit of that, but again, most of those complaints don't rise up to the commission because they're handled in our permit department, our planning department. But I have heard a few, and I think probably one thing that I would say is, at least on the commission level, because the city commission also serves as the board for the community redevelopment agency, and we have a CRA, an established CRA area here in Lake Wales. It's in the historic area in the Northwest area, where if you're going to make an investment in a building to start a business and you come to us with what we feel like is a workable business plan, we will match dollar for dollar the capital investment you're making in your restaurant up to a certain level, 50,000 or 100,000. And we've done that with several businesses downtown. The Ranch, we just signed off to do it for the Thirsty Dragon and DJ Smoking Barbecue over on First Street. We did it with Melanie's, Maggie Mae's Ice Cream. All of these are locally owned businesses. So that's one thing we try to do to help facilitate. On the other side, with the frustration, all I can say there is I don't believe that the requirements in downtown Lake Wales are any more stringent than they are in other cities, but maybe the communication process isn't good. So one thing we can talk about is how do we put together like a punch list that's real? Because the complaints that I've seen that people have come to me personally about, it seems like what happens is they get out of order. They do something and then they find out that they got out of order and they're frustrated, which I understand. Why didn't somebody tell me? And of course, you can cross your arms and say, that's not my responsibility, but that's not the environment we want to have. So more of
Yeah,
a teamwork kind
that's
of
good.
approach where maybe we have
Initiatives
someone
are in
who,
place to
when they come
support
in to make an
these local
application to start a
businesses?
business downtown Lake
Like,
Wales,
explain a
they
little
have
bit
to sit down
more.
with one of
Like,
our
how
permit
can,
people
like,
and walk through that
if I
punch
want to start
list.
a restaurant
Do this, do this,
downtown
do
or a
this, do
business
this, so that they
downtown,
don't,
what's the
so that
process
they
to
don't get out of order and have
get
those
a hold
frustrations.
of like that CRA benefit? Like, what would someone have to do?
I think they have to reach out to our city manager first. Now, he's going to hate for me to say that because, he's but he is the executive director of the CRA as well. And he's probably going to put them in front of whichever person is on staff in the city for them to sit down and have that discussion. And that person's job is to work with them, walk them through that process. In lieu of that, the assistant city manager, Dina Drumgo, might be a good person to call. And that's it. They'll bring you into the city hall and say, sit you down with a CRA person and say, this is what you need to do to qualify. By the time it gets in front of us, that's already, they've got their presentation and it's just up to us to approve it.
Gotcha. Now, here's another question from the city, from the Facebook group. The state of the hotel downtown has been an issue for years. Lake Wells has spent a lot of money revitalizing downtown to attract more people, yet we have a massive abandoned hotel that is deteriorating every year. What is your plan to revitalize it or to tear it down?
Yeah. Okay, so the short answer and the factual answer to that is we're in litigation over that building. We don't own it. The city of Lake Wales does not own the Grand Hotel. It still is owned by a private individual. It was actually signed over to him in 2007 with a contract with some agreed upon outcomes and a time frame of construction, which was never met. And the city, I think, tried to be very tried to work with him because we didn't want to take it back. We don't have the resources to revitalize it. And we thought he did. And finally, after 17 years, finally this last year, we took action to try and regain control. So we're in litigation and we don't own the hotel.
Now, now it's hypothetical. Let's say the city does win the case, actually gets the hotel. Day one, what would be the plan?
Well, I don't know that the city has a plan, so I can only tell you what that's not true. The Lake Wales Connected Plan calls for that hotel to stay there and to become a part of the downtown area, but it's going to be a major capital investment. So what we have to hope for and work for is to get maybe somebody who really loves that, their niche is boutique, kind of historic hotel developments. And we've seen that done with some hotels in our county. So yes, I think that's probably what the city would prioritize, trying to turn it back into part of the downtown and make it something that's attractive and business is happening there. That's what I would want to see happen on a personal level, but I can't make any promises about that.
Yeah, no, well, for sure. Like I said, it's hypothetical. Always wanted to know, tear it down or build it, make a new history, or
And I think it could become a wonderful location. My mind comes up with a dozen different things you could do with it, but the devil's always in the dollars, and you're looking at multi-million-dollar investment in that property. But there may be someone out there that can do that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, how do you plan to balance growth while maintaining the small town charm, the small town charm of Lake Wells?
Yeah. Well, I think that's what we were trying to accomplish with, first of all, the 180 utility service area that we adopted a couple of years ago. And just, real quick, and this is no for simplification, but what that does is that establishes a footprint for our city. How far will we go out? What lands will we consider for annexation that will become part of the actual city limits of Lake Wales as we grow? We did that. We established that. It's a nice square area. And what that does is that puts us to the front of the line. When a property owner wants to be annexed, they have to talk to us first. When they want to develop, they have to talk to us first. And that doesn't mean that they have to work with us, but it gives us priority over how these lands get developed. Then the next thing that we did was the Lake Wales Envision Plan. And the Lake Wales Envision Plan, part of that is trying to maintain a real break between heavily developed areas and the downtown, maintain some sense of open agricultural kind of land. So there's a green belt that's built around the city in that. And we're going to try really hard to see if we can make that happen. Even the planner that put it together called it the moonshot, because those are privately owned lands. And if they decide they want to do something with them, they can. But the third element, though, of the Lake Wales Envision Plan, or the second element of that, the third part of that is we're trying to encourage denser development downtown and not have people sprawling all over the place. Again, we're a little bit limited in how much we can control that, because a lot of the land around us is out in the county and they don't have to come to us to develop. So if you drive down Masterpiece Road or you go out by Oakwood right now, there's a lot of development happening there that didn't come to the city of Lake Wales. They did it through the county, and we don't have any control over that. But as much as we can control, we're trying to encourage people come to the core. We're giving them the ability to develop more densely downtown so they can get more value, and hoping not to, get people sprawling all the way out.
No, yeah, for sure. And the next question kind of goes with that, which I think will be a solution for this. Is many residents are concerned about the rising housing costs. What steps are you taking to ensure affordable housing options? I want to answer that a little bit.
Sure.
More homes means there's, it definitely lowers the cost of older homes, because the newer homes, they will not lower the cost, but they offer so many incentives where it does bring down the price, causing the older homes, they can't compete. So the only way for them to compete is if they drop the prices for their homes. Now, what can the city commission do? Is there anything they could do to help with that?
Yeah, again, part of that is that I think that folks kind of have been conditioned to see the government, whether it's local or national, as an answer to problems that really they can't. Your government can't get meddled too much in the market. So we don't have a lot of direct control over housing prices as far as what the market will support. That's what it will demand. I think all we can do about that is you've got to be friendly to developers so that there's more options available.
Yeah.
More houses make them more affordable. If you don't have enough housing, the price goes up. And the other thing is you have to try and bring high-paying jobs. Let's don't build cheap houses. Let's get people good jobs so they can buy good houses.
Yeah, I think that's a good response.
Our city, one of our city planners, Autumn, says, I don't like talking about affordable housing. I like talking about attainable housing. Well, the more you make, the better house is attainable to you. So I understand the concerns that people are expressing when they say affordable housing. Again, I pastor a church, and I know how hard it is for young families to come and talk to me. And I pray with them about they can't even afford a house. But the answer I want to find for them is let's get you a good paying job, not move you into a trashy house that's affordable.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think it's also in the mindset of people, like, and I get this with a lot of folks. There's no way I can afford a house because they were told they can't, or it's a mind thing. And then when you bring them to the table, it's like, oh, this is actually cheaper than renting.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned something that is important. Again, when it comes to new development, new developers are able to make home ownership much more attainable. So these new developments have all kinds of programs. I know that my wife and I, the house that we're living in was built, it's a newer home. Southern Homes built it. And we were living in a historic home for 16 years. And I was in that position where I'll never be able to come up. I'm a pastor. I'm never going to come up with a down payment for a new home. And then you talk to these people and you find out how many ways they can make it for you to own a home.
Oh, yeah.
And so we've been in that house for a little over a decade now. And I never would have thought I could have afforded that house. But a new builder can do things for you.
Yeah, no, it's to some, it seems like they're the enemy, but then they make it their interest rates are half what
Yeah.
a resale is. They give you down payment assistance, they'll pay for your closing costs, and they'll do a lot of stuff. So a solution to affordable housing is, hey, a lot of these new developers, they have cheaper houses, or if not, they could give you a big house, but it'll cost way less than what a resale will be. Yeah, no, it's like they're giving new constructions, they're practically handing the house away.
I lived in a historic home once in Alabama for 16 years. It was about 2,300 square feet. It's a money pit. And the house that we bought out at Dinner Lake is about the same square footage. I got in there with no money down because of the incentives that they had.
Yeah.
And the monthly payment on that house is almost the same as what I was in that old house. And it's cheaper because it's more energy efficient.
Yeah. No, I live in a 100-year-old house.
Yeah.
I get to every once in a while, it's like, you don't even live in Lake Wells. I'm like, yes, I do. Let's try. I'm like, my house is 100 years old, but I want one of the houses from the Envision, but I still want it in the downtown area. Because we walked to the library, we walked to downtown, we walked to Kiwanis, we walked to Crystal Lake Park more than anything. But we love that about Lake Wells. So we talked a little bit about this before, but this is a question from someone of Lake Wells. With the influx of people moving to Lake Wells, how are you going to educate the children of the city? And I think what they mean by that is we only have 2 high schools, Lake Wells High School and McLaughlin High School. How is the city going to equally support both? And how do we make it fair across the board on who goes where?
Yeah. Well, again, those are great questions. And it sounds like I'm kicking the can down the road. But the reality is the city commission doesn't have any direct control over the school system. We're partners with them. So we try really hard to support them every way we can. So decisions about where kids go to school, maintenance of the buildings, all of that's done by either the Polk County School Board or by the local charter school board here in the city. Having said that, again, when we approve a development, when a developer comes to the city and they submit a plan and they followed all the rules and they've met all of our criteria, once that, and by the way, they have to go through meetings with our planning department, then they have to get approved by the planning and zoning board, and then they have to come before us for two meetings. I think it's like 7 meetings in the process for a development. But once we approve them, those plans go up to the county and the state for what's called concurrency studies. And concurrency means that it's up to them to determine what's the impact going to be on the roads, what's the level of service, what's the impact going to be on the local schools, because they have to, if they find out that our school system, if they determine our school system cannot appropriately service, then that's a reason that it might get rejected on that level. So those decisions, again, are made kind of above us. When it comes to us as a commission, when a development comes before us, we have certain rules we have to follow. And really there's only a certain amount of criteria that we're supposed to consider, and that's not within the scope of our decision making. We only have to decide, the only thing we can decide is, have they followed all of our zoning rules? Have they met all of our requirements? If they have, there has to be a really compelling reason for us to reject them. If we do, and they've met all the requirements, actually we could get in legal trouble. So all that to say, it's something we have to think about, but it's a decision that we trust, to be made, and it has to be made at another level.
Yeah. It seems like there's a lot of, I wouldn't say complaints, but there's a lot of concerning issues people have. But a lot of this is not it. Like the city of Lake Wells,
Right,
doesn't have, their hands are tied. A lot of this is county, state, that they're the ones who has more control and say of what's going on.
You're right. And I know, again, when I say that, I understand that that's frustrating and people feel like you're passing the buck, but it's just the reality. And when you're in the seat of the city commission, you have to follow the rules. when you're dealing with people's private property. And while that may frustrate them, I promise you, if they had a project, they would want us to deal with them the same way.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure, that's good. Now, how do you ensure transparency in the government's decisions, and how can citizens be more involved? And I'm sure, and I want to explain, because I know they could just go straight to the website, but for folks who don't know, and they're like, hey, I want to be more involved, I want to see what's going on.
What you did?
I make this offer all the time as far as I'm concerned. You can email me. I've got a Facebook page. I've got a government email box, and I ask all the time, if you have a question, please send it to me. I promise you I'll try and answer it. I try and be as forthcoming as possible because I want people to understand these things. So I think almost all of our commissioners feel that way. Email us. I would also encourage them to visit the city website. We meet as a commission on the first and third Tuesdays of every month. We have work sessions on the second and fourth Wednesday of every month, and those are open to the public. Anyone can come. They're allowed to speak to the commission at the commission meetings on the first and third Tuesday. If they can't make it, they're broadcast. We videotape them, and they can go to the city website and watch the meetings on the website, live or recorded. Their transcribed minutes are posted. So all of that information is there. I have an office in the city hall, and I'm there almost every Friday for at least a part of the day. I've got a full-time job, but I'm there for part of the day to meet with the city manager. I would very happily meet with them if they want to call. I've sat and talked to citizens who are concerned about issues. Call me. If you've got a concern, our city manager is pretty responsive. We've had people reach out to us because water was getting too high in a lake. It was supposed to be pumped, and I called the city manager. He's pretty responsive. Sometimes we don't know, and we'll get out there and take care of it. So,
no, I actually have an experience with that. I live in downtown, and my water pressure just dropped. And it was just like a little stream. And I'm like, what in the world's going on? I got to get ready to go. And I called the city. I called the city. Was like, there's no one worked out there, And I'm like, well, something happened. I checked, the first thing I'm like, did I pay my bills? And I'm like, oh, I paid my bills. Like it's like something happened. And so I reached out, I sent an email, and I had 3 commissioners call me. I had, and they solved the problem before, within a few hours. And I was actually surprised at how fast. I didn't, to be honest, my mindset is I'm sending this out to the city. They have so many things going on. There's no way they're going to listen to a citizen. And to my surprise, they went out of their way to make sure. They called me later. Hey, we just want to make sure someone from the city went out there and checked. The problem was solved. And I was like, wow, that was actually a really good response.
Yeah. So, and I'll give you another, for instance. We just put in the Park Avenue Connector Trail, and in design it's pretty good, but there were problems because of the way that it's designed. People were a little confused. One half of it is a bike trail, one half of it is a one-way traffic for automobiles, and people were turning onto the bike trail with their cars. It happened more than once, and a person that lived on the street came to the commission. We have comments and petitions at the top of every meeting where a citizen can come up and has 5 minutes to share whatever's on your mind. And that was what this citizen talked to us about. He showed us a picture he took of an Amazon truck going up the wrong side of the road. And just drawing that to our attention, within the next week, the city manager had barricades set up so that doesn't happen any longer. And that's, those are the good stories. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but I guess that's all I can say is that I don't think that there's an effort made to hide information. Maybe you just don't know where to go. So city website, the commission meetings are videotaped. They're broadcast live, they're videotaped. City commission meetings are open to any citizen can come and make comments and listen. Call us. We have all the city commissioners' email addresses are on the city website. I would meet with them. So I want the word to get out. I offer almost every time I write an article or post something. If you have questions, please, getting on Facebook and calling me names is probably not good. But if you send me a question, or if you have a concern, I think all of our commissioners want very, very much to try and solve a problem for you.
Now I have two more questions for you. And this is, with the change of technology and everything, AI is rapidly changing the way cities operates and way business and way everything operates. Do you have any plans to use AI to help the city improve your role as a mayor?
I don't. I don't know anything about AI. So I'll tell you what'll probably happen because it's the way it happens in my church. We have a young man that runs our tech department, and he'll probably come to a staff meeting one day. And he'll say, "Hey, let me explain AI to you and how it can help us do some things better." And he'll make a proposal, and we'll say yes or no. And that's usually how it happens at the city commission. We have a city manager. We have a couple hundred full-time staff that are responsible for different areas, and we have an IT department. So the IT department would probably make a proposal to the city manager. The city manager will either put it in the budget, or you'll come and make a special request, and the commission based on that proposal will act.
Yeah. Because there's with AI, it's kind of cool because you could, you know, put a bunch of questions or solutions in there, and it could write immediately, instant. It'll give you. You could have it. It depends. It's like a calculator, I would say. You could have it write up a bunch of different scenarios,
Sure, yeah.
a bunch of different solutions,
Yeah.
and then address those and find what's the best. You could present all the problems on there, present all the things, all the solutions you have, the budget we have. You could just pretty much gather all the information, plug it in, and create solutions that'll benefit.
So, for instance, a few minutes ago, we were talking about the process of getting a business started and how permitting.
Yeah.
So maybe AI it has the ability to scour all of those things and pile them and collate them.
Yeah, you could use that to make a step-by-step plan.
Right.
Businesses be like, hey, instead of it, getting headaches, here's a plan, follow this step-by-step. We'll get you open right away.
That'd be fantastic. I'd be all for something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Now, if reelected, what's one new initiative or policy you plan to introduce that you didn't do in your first term?
Again, policies are, I can only do that in conjunction with all the other commissioners. I can't unilaterally, but I will tell you that the policies that I will pursue, I want to pursue a very energetic implementation of our Parks and Recs master plan. Now, I will tell you how that kind of goes. When we adopted Lake Wales Connected, and that was the renaissance of the downtown, renewal of the downtown area, we had to take the first step. We had to go find $13.5 million of financing, which we did through a bond issue to do Park Avenue. But now that that's done, it's attracted a lot of attention. And just this last year, we received a $23 million raise grant from the federal government to do the same kind of work on 4 more streets in our city. First Street, Lincoln Avenue, I think Central, and Stewart. So we've got 4. That may not be the right streets, but 4 more streets. And I think the same thing will happen with Parks and Rec. I think that what I'm going to say is, look, we've got this thing, and we have got to pick something that we're going to focus on and make it the project that we're going to sell out on and put our money into. And I think if we do that well, it'll start attracting outside resources. That's one. And then the second one is, like I said earlier, we've got to activate the downtown area. So as the mayor, and our economic development. So as the mayor, I will do as much as I can to try and energetically pursue EDC, bringing businesses in, trying to create the kind of land and the kind of buildings that we need to attract larger business, and also really champion the downtown. We've really invested in that. It's a gorgeous downtown. So we need to get some anchor tenants in our downtown that are very attractive places that people are excited about visiting. So those are probably the 2 things I'll concentrate on.
Oh, nice. Now, what would you like to tell your campaign and let the audience know, so that way, like, what would you like to tell them?
Well, Yeah. Well, I hope they do vote for me. I think that your city's well led. I understand how discombobulating sometimes growth can be, but I'm telling you, it's exciting times for the city of Lake Wales. And I think that this city is very well led. And the reason I would want them to vote for me is that, when you step into the role of mayor, there's an awful lot of information to learn. And it's like drinking from a fire hydrant sometimes. And I will admit that the first several months that I was on the commission, I didn't understand a lot of this. I didn't understand how complicated an ecosystem a city was. And I do now. So I'm ready to run. I've led a large congregation and I helped start a school. I've managed multi-million-dollar budgets and multiple staff. And I realize how much of that expertise transfers over to the way that our local city is run. And I feel like that I'm qualified to do that job. So whoever you vote for to sit in that mayor seat, it's important that they know that they know how to lead people. So you should ask the question, what have they led? And go see what they lead and see what it looks like. And then I feel like that I'm qualified to do it well. I love the city. I believe great days are ahead of it. And I think we're well positioned to take advantage of that.
Chops. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, man, I appreciate you doing